All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started then. We got everybody here?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So we're gonna start this meeting, December 20th. And a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting on November 15th.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, anybody have any corrections? All in favor? Okay, great. Diane, do we have to wait for Diane? or-
I'm keeping the minutes and I've got the video going, so.
Okay, good, all right, gotcha.
Mike, you don't have your video on.
Oh, yeah, you're only gonna see me when I turn it on, but,
Okay.
Should we wait until it's on?
No, he's on. This is on, but
She's, okay.
it's there. All right, so we got financial report, Brenda Palmer.
all right, Brenda, you're up.
Okay, yeah, I apologize, my camera doesn't ever want to work. But I met some of you yesterday, Brenda Palmer from Maine Rural Water Association. And, we took over the account early December and still working towards getting all the reconciliations up to snuff and getting our knowledge base down of what's going on in the district. But with Tanya's help, I feel these financial statements are pretty solid. And as you can see, the activity for the month, we had a little bit of a gain over budget for water usage and revenues both. But year-to-date is still continuing to be under budget. And payroll, I'm looking at the stats page, folks. And the payroll, you can see, we've had some openings throughout the year, so that continues to be a budget pickup. And accounts receivable is holding steady. Not much really changed there to talk about. And same with cash on hand. It's been relatively flat for the past 3 months. And so I'm going to jump over to the full income statement. And, we already talked about revenues. They're looking a little low year to date, but not horrible. And as far as expenses, we did have an increase over budget in the chemical costs and some inventory costs. But overall, again, you can see the impact of the staffing on payroll and benefits. And taking it down to the bottom line, principal bond payments, that difference is really just a timing of how the budget was set up against the payments. So overall, those line items really tell the story. And if you want to go to the balance sheet, we'll just go over that real quick. So construction work in progress, you can see that we've had some projects going on this year, a little bit higher than December, and which has, lowered our cash and working funds. And we've also paid down the bonds. Everything else is relatively stable. So that's really all I had, unless someone has any specific questions that I can either answer or research for you.
Just a quick comment, Brenda, it's Dan. Last night at the sewer meeting, you had a nice red line along the $1 million mark, which is our minimum reserve. Can we get that?
Yeah.
Can we get that added to the water one as well?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Thank you.
It's probably because she wasn't close. Yeah.
It is quite a ways, but still.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay. Thank you very much, Brenda.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Thanks, Brenda.
Thank you.
All right. That moves us on to ratify the payment of bills. Bob, you got anything to add?
I get a couple, but I'll do a little later.
Okay,
I got a couple questions, but I'll deal with them later.
okay,
Make the motion.
yeah,
I move that we ratify the payment of bills.
okay,
Second.
okay. Second, anybody else have any comments? All in favor? All right, thank you, Bob. All right, public comment, gentlemen, you wanna introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Jeff Harmon. I'm the newly elected mayor of Auburn. I'll be assuming a seat on the board on January 1st, and I'll be sending a letter to Mike and all the trustees about requests to have Steve act as an alternate in my absence and be able to participate in the meetings. Nice to meet all of you. I've met a number of you for the first time today. Look forward to working with you.
Steve, do you have anything to say?
No, I don't, Steve.
Okay, all right.
Welcome, Jeff.
Well,
Thank you.
we're gonna close public comment then, and move on to activity report. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, month of November really busy, getting ready for winter season. We did have a couple main breaks. And then hydrant work is in full swing, both private and publicly owned hydrants. Finished our inventory audit for the year. And then as far as you can see with services, everything's steady there. Meters, everything's normal there. Station checks, we're still going out, making sure we're getting to our stations on a weekly basis. Being proactive with our maintenance. We did receive, under water quality, you'll see there are probably 24 calls. We did have an issue where we had discoloration in our water. We took this very serious. There are a few things going on when these calls started. We had our fall flushing program going on, which with that, just the nature of that, can stir up sediment that's within the main and create discoloration. We also had, we found an isolated valve in our distribution system, which can change your hydraulic modeling and can have an effect on your chemistry. Also, we did have a plant shutdown during this time frame, and we're wondering if maybe sediment within one of our storage tanks may have lent itself to this issue. We couldn't really put our finger on any one issue, but a lot of the phone calls and complaints have subsided. We went out there, we flushed many areas. Some of these were in, close proximity to each other. So we came up with a flushing program to address the issue. We collect many water quality samples to make sure that, give the residents and customers peace of mind that the water is safe to consume. And we're going to continue to triage these if they come in. And then that's it for the monthly activity report.
After you did those activities to flush the water and get it fresh again,
Yep.
calls ended.
We still receive a few, but there are some that in there that we have to triage when you get a water quality complaint, such as, is this an internal plumbing issue, or is this a distribution system issue? So those are things that we work through with the customer to make sure that these just don't fall under this umbrella that we experienced in November. But yes, we'll go out there, we'll respond to them and verify if it's an internal customer issue or if it's a distribution issue.
Thanks, Matt.
You're welcome. Project update, projects for 2023 are complete for the season. Dunn Street and 2nd Street will be completed to carry over from this year into 2024. So we do have a little bit of work left to do there. And then AWD's been working diligently to prepare 2024 budgets. And Mike and I met with City Engineering Department to discuss with them what they have for projects slated for 2024 and how we can best work together. What we're doing now is we're tabulating what we have for assets within the scope of projects that the city has so that we can go out there and we can do preliminary work in preparation. But we can also put out the option to be a bid alternate with their projects to have their contractor not only do the reconstruction of their projects, but potentially do the main replacement of our work, if that's something that we want to do. And then, as I mentioned earlier in the activity report, AWD staff are maintaining hydrants, winterizer facilities and equipment. And then we're gonna be shifting gears here to get out there to do preliminary work for our projects. That's all I have for now. Any questions?
Really, it's all good then?
And the only thing is there any update real quick on this lead program, the lead pipe program? And I know it hit the Wall Street Journal, it's all over the news now, that Biden's administration wants to do this, but still no plan in writing how we're going to do this done.
Well, the update, we're waiting on the EPA actually to come out with a LCRI. So there's an LCRR, and then they just came out with the LCRI in November 30th. So the 30th of last month. Right now, Mike and I have been discussing, we brought Chris in so that he fully understands the potential impact for his department, both for Auburn and for Lewiston. Mike and I discussed coming up with a plan for a consultant to do public outreach and education. Right now, we have, we're going to be responsible for submitting our inventory October 16th of 2024, and then a sampling plan will be in place for 2025. We did allocate, as Mike, as we'll go through later on, money in capital projects for.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's where we're at now. Next steps are discussing how we want to move forward with this. We have, let's say, 95% of our service lines. We have the inventory list, but there's some information that we need to go out there and collect in the field.
That's where the public education comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing I just wanted to ask about, I sent you that information with the free software for security that's being offered to one district. Does that bring out to be anything?
Yeah, no, I did definitely look into that. That is, we have a couple other programs like that that we're going to be pursuing. You know, big things we get into the budget year for next year, you know, then follow up on those and figure if we can get them in during that calendar year or not. But yeah, no, definitely, thank you.
The company that was offering free security software for water districts and their delivery systems, and it was being offered free to help make sure that we're having more secure, so we can hack it.
Nothing's
Right.
free though.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like something.
Well, no, I don't know, I thought it was
Right.
legitimate.
I forwarded it to
TikTok
our,
security software.
I
Yeah,
forwarded it to our IT company and asked him if this was an option for us, and he said he'd be back to me.
all right, cool, it's interesting to see.
Yep.
Excellent, okay. That, thank you for that, Matt. New business.
All right, in your
Trustee
packets,
Paul,
we've got a couple of things we gotta go through. So, 2024 trustee appointments is something we always bring up in December. You should see where all the appointments and where all of your appointments began, where you're currently at, and where they're ending. There is one trustee, Andy, you are up for reappointment in 2024. And we just kind of bring this up as an FYI. Make sure you get your paperwork into the city if you want to continue on. And just as an FYI to the rest of you on when your appointment will is due to end. So there's nothing really to take action on there. It's just as an FYI at the year-end meeting is what we're doing. The second item I'll call to your attention, I will ask for a vote on this, is the 2024 meeting date schedule. Per our, it's actually written right into our charters. We meet the third Wednesday of every month. I pulled all of these dates from the calendar, and looking at them, I didn't see any conflicts with any major holidays like we had with November of this year and Thanksgiving. So I don't see any issues with holidays. So if everybody's good with these dates, I would like to get these approved, voted on, and then we'll put them on our website. I also need to reach out to the Sun Journal because for whatever reason, I don't know if any of you have noticed this, they've been posting incorrect data to the paper. I've never sent them any information. there was a notice that went into the paper Monday that the sewer trustee meeting last night started at 6 p.m.
And also the water.
And they never start at that time, and I don't know where they got that information, and I don't know how that line's got crossed, but once we vote on this, I plan to, well, this is what it is for 2024, it's on our website, and there it is. So, I'll try to straighten that out as well. So, if you guys are good with these dates, have you take a vote.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting schedule as presented.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
All right, thank you. That's all I had on that.
Okay, more, why don't you continue on, Mike?
All right, amendments to
I think
the,
this is why Mike's here, right?
yes, this is why Mike Hodgins is here. As our discussions at previous water trustee meetings, one of the items that we have been working with Lewiston on is a possible amendment to our basic agreement, which would basically, what I see us doing here, this amendment does two things. It's if we're going to move the watershed boundary again, we're going to get drinking water program prior to adopting that, and that's what we've agreed to here at this board. But we are also going to give Lewiston and other interested parties 30 days notice prior to us doing this. So that is the essence of the amendment to this basic agreement. And there's a lot of whereas and whatnot to explain the circumstance, but that's basically the nuts and bolts of what we're looking to approve here. Now,
It's here.
the good news is at the Lewiston City Council meeting this Monday, was it Monday, Mike?
Last night.
Last night, the Lewiston City Council voted 7-0 to pass this. If this board passes it, we will send it to the town of Turner, because they are also linked to the, town of Turner and AvCog, for them to review. It'll then go to the drinking water program, and assuming they all approve this, this will be executed. And this will release that portion of our lawsuit with Lewiston regarding the watershed boundary. This is the protocol that would, satisfy that piece of it. So,
Mike, I'll speak to that just briefly, and if there are other questions, if you don't mind.
Please.
Okay, so just on the last part about the dismissal with prejudice, so I've given Mike a proposed motion which would condition our approval on the dismissal of any claims related to Auburn Water District's April 20, 2022 adoption of the revised watershed boundary. So you recall back in April of 2022, that was when there was a revision of the map, and that came about 3 weeks before the lawsuit. So that was one of the claims that was raised in the lawsuit. I have talked to Lewiston's attorney about this. My understanding is that they are willing to dismiss those claims from the lawsuit, which will eliminate most of the claims that are still pending. But I wanted to, I told Mike Carey that I would propose to this board that you condition your approval upon that dismissal with prejudice, meaning that they can't raise the April 20, 2022 map vote again as some sort of violation of this agreement. The intent of this amendment to the basic agreement is to resolve those issues going forward. So, as we've discussed here with our board before, you don't want to run into that situation again.
Okay. So here's the motion that, Andy, you want to, I'll read the motion and I'll get somebody to motion. The Auburn Water District authorizes the superintendent to execute the First Amendment to the interlocal cooperation agreement as presented in the board packet of December 20th, 2023 regarding the process that Auburn Water District will follow for future changes to the boundary of the watershed as used in the basic agreement dated June 29th, 1993. Execution of the amendment by the Auburn Water District is conditioned upon dismissal with prejudice of all claims relating to the district's April 20th, 2022 adoption of the revised official watershed boundary map from the litigation filed by the city of Lewiston, currently pending in the Business and Consumer Court docket, number BCD CIV 2022-31.
I'll second that.
Does somebody
Well,
want?
so
I'll so move, yep.
Okay,
Second.
okay. Let's talk about it. You guys,
So it doesn't dismiss the entire lawsuit,
It doesn't
just that
dismiss the
portion.
entire-
So what's left in the lawsuit, Mike?
So what's left in the lawsuit would be essentially, let's call it the septic ordinance changes. And we're obviously still working on those, and as I understand, the ordinance was passed by Auburn, and now it's been delayed. So we're still working on those issues. I would say we're working cooperatively toward getting those resolved as well. So we're sort of dismissing this piecemeal. And by the way, one last thought on that too. You may, I believe I ran this by you, but it was a while ago. They actually removed one of 5 other counts early on. Or early on, I'd say back in the summer. So we've been chipping away at the lawsuit a little bit at a time.
My other question was, the peer reviews that were happening, the Watershed Protection Commission paid for that. Does this agreement encumber us to have to, as a district, to have to pay for the extra research or engineering involved going forward?
Yeah, I mean, it would be presumably paid for through the commission, which is shared.
Is there, should be a clarification in the agreement regarding that?
And it's shared. And there's no requirement that there be necessarily peer review. I also wanted to comment sort of on that same line when Mike referenced earlier. As the agreement reads, and I confirmed this with Mike Carey, notice goes out to the interested parties. They get to comment, but I know there's some concern that they get to sort of hold up any approval process. The approval process under this still stays with the Board of Trustees. You just have to give an opportunity for comment. It doesn't mean you have to accept that comment. And that kind of ties into what study you might propose. But I would say the way it's worked in the past was the Protection Commission funded any studies that needed to be done because it was in the interest of both entities.
Kind of reference that, this will help explain it. So right now, we've been through this process once. The commission funded CDM Smith to study where could the watershed boundary move. If it could move, it wound up getting redelineated based off the drinking water program recommendation. So that's where it's been adopted now. Currently, the property owner and representatives of Gendron are pursuing studying this further. And could the boundary be moved closer to the lake, further to the west, towards the Berry Farm? And they're paying for that study work through our consultant. So if that work gets done and then gets approved by the drinking water program, there really essentially would be no peer review or no cost incurred by the commission, Lewiston, or the district per se, outside of the staff time to review and send the drinking water program for approval.
And the original study was FB Environmental paid for by the city.
Right.
Through $100,000 that the city paid for FB Environmental, which that was where the first boundary came from. That the CDM's first review had their less conservative boundary was actually farther away than FB Environmental's. And then this is more in line with their conservative boundary, I think.
Yeah. So the agreement, the amendment doesn't tie us to paying for any studies. They could happen a number of ways. The city could fund it, a private entity could fund it. It could be something we want to initiate and study and fund, or Lewiston could initiate that. But it doesn't tie us or anyone. That's not specifically tied to that. This is just the process of future approvals.
Tying it to the drinking water program
Yes.
sign off.
Yep.
And then that's it.
And the 30-day notice to other entities.
So it could be presented to the commission and they could
So we
decide
want,
not
we
to
want to do a
fund it.
peer review of it, and we don't agree with this. And then it would have to get studied further.
I had one question on that too, while we're on that subject. Mike, this also kind of bothered me a little bit, but I feel better about it now. But when it says no less than 30 days after providing such notice, so that means we have to wait 30 days before we can go forward, allowing them notice, but it says no less than 30 days, but there's no maximum on that. Could that cause a problem in the future that on the 31st day we decide to move forward and they say, hey, wait a minute, we're not done yet? And so it doesn't have any clarification as to a deadline. It just says at least 30 days have to go by.
Yeah, and actually, that was language that they proposed, they meeting the city of Lewiston,
Yeah, I don't like that.
in their first draft, and it's to give them 30 days, but that's sort of an outside window. You can move on the 31st day if they have not commented. This allows you to take your next step. You only have to give them 30 days to comment.
So
Could they ask for an extra 2 weeks, and could you grant it? Yes, but they can't complain if you move on the 31st day.
well, they have complained and sued us for stuff that we didn't do, so I mean, they're famous for doing that, so I was a little worried if there wasn't some sort of a drop dead sentence. That's it. You can't have no claim after this date. Looks like they could, hey, wait a minute, give me another week.
Yeah.
And if we don't,
Yeah, no,
they're gonna get mad and sue
the
us.
drop dead date is 30 days. They have 30 days to comment. And then after that, they have no more ability to comment.
So Michael, this already has to go back to the City of Lewiston Council, right? Because of what you're proposing changing in the language?
No, because they have voted to approve it. There may be some further discussion on whether they're willing to dismiss with prejudice. I've had that discussion this afternoon with their attorney. It doesn't change the terms of this agreement. The agreement that's in your packet is exactly what they voted on last night. So we have, well, if you approve the motion tonight, we both have conditional approval to sign off on this. Still needs to be approved by Turner, which I don't expect to be a problem. And once we agree to it, the drinking water program needs to approve it. The reason being there is because it's an amendment to that 1993 agreement, which specifically says any amendments need to be approved by the drinking water program. But they could, to your question, they could say, well, we're not going to sign it if we have to dismiss with prejudice. But I think it's better that our condition be that we don't want that map issue from April of 22 to come back at us again. And frankly, I think Mike Carey understands that logic. He said that they would dismiss it, he just said without prejudice.
Anybody else have any questions?
Well, I guess I'll just bring up the comment that I know that we don't want to put a stick in the mud on this whole process, but I kind of wish that we could have some leverage when it comes to cost apportionment, which I know is on our agenda tonight. But that agreement has taken such a hard time to get everybody together at the table. This seemed like the perfect opportunity to bring that up. We haven't really in any meaningful way, so I'm a little disappointed that it's not going to be somehow included in this negotiation.
That's why I won't be voting in favor of it. So.
I mean, I know that we want to sign this, but we also want to keep people at the table and address that cost apportionment thing. I don't know. Is that still on the table, Mike, for future negotiations, or do you think?
So Mike Broadbent can speak to it, but he and I have spoken about it. I believe when you talk about that later, Mike is going to propose to get together with the city of Lewiston. They have not resisted having discussions. It's just technically not part of the lawsuit. So we're trying to whittle away at the lawsuit, and we've already gone through this watershed approval process. But Mike, as I understand, is going to suggest that he communicate with the city to sort of reinstitute that group. I think that group was set up and met once, and then nothing ever happened.
Correct.
Well, would it be possible to approve this with a conditional amendment, not amendment, but a provision that says we will sign this and agree to it as long as we have a meeting scheduled, or something, what you were talking about. And maybe that would put some pressure on them to say, this can get signed, but not until we have a meeting scheduled. It's not fully in effect until we have a meeting scheduled.
I know this was raised by the trustee board about 4 months ago. It was asked, when are we gonna start these negotiations again? I reached out to Mike, he reached out to Mike Carrier for Lewiston, and they basically got back, they were never told to stop meeting. Why did you stop meeting? And I think it was just whether it was just the transition from, the original subcommittee that we had set up was you, Sid, and I believe it was Heather, and I don't know who the other representative from Lewiston, but you guys there was a couple of meetings. It had come back to this board that it was recommended to have the auditors do the breakdown of the financial breakdown, and then no action ever took place,
Yeah, we were
and it
told
just
to
kind of
wait.
got lost in the shuffle.
We were told to please wait till budget season was over, and before its budget season was over, we wanted a lawsuit.
So here it is. Cost apportionment isn't named, or it doesn't have any part of this litigation. It's not a contingency of it. And do we want to? I really want to see this district get out from underneath that lawsuit. We can look at our financial reports and our budgets, and I can show you what this is costing us. And I would hate to hold closure of that off on something that's not named in this, or to delay that process for this. I think we can, and Mike has checked with Mike Carrier, and they said, no, they can continue negotiations and talking on that. I think that's what we do. That's going to be my discussion on another agenda item here, is that let's start pushing that, because we do have leverage on them for cost apportionment, and that is through that PUC complaint that was originally filed, that was dismissed contingent that we continue to discuss this.
Right, and we haven't.
But that would have to be separate action that we have to take, not part of this litigation. It's just separate issues, and I really want to see this one get closed, and then let's pursue this next one.
Well, I'll just end mine with asking Mike a question and then you a question, and that is that I'm in agreement with this generally speaking, but if I knew that we were gonna start talks right away, and Mike, you didn't think that there was gonna be an issue with the lawsuit, that is, us getting together and because we're being sued, we're still meeting at the table, we have to be careful what we say and how we say it or whatever because we're being sued. We can go forward with the talks, knowing that we're gonna go forward with the talks, and I'm okay with not holding this up. But we've been waiting for too long to get with Lewiston. They're the ones that cut it off before and they never got back to us because, so we've been just waiting for this to happen.
And I think if that question was, can you meet regardless of what's still pending in the lawsuit, I would say absolutely you can meet and have discussions about cost apportionment. Mike and Kevin have to meet and talk all the time. And I would not hold up this vote. I will also tell you that, from every conversation I've had with Mike Carey in the last couple of months, and I think including his email today when he told me about the vote, the sentiment from the city of Lewiston about the way that this has sort of come around has been very positive. And I would just say that I think now is actually, without tying it to this amendment, I think the time is probably pretty good for you to talk, to have good discussions with them about apportionment, because I think they see the cooperation sort of improving significantly. So I think you ought to jump on that while we can, but I wouldn't tie this amendment up to a meeting date, which frankly doesn't really tie them to much.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I would say, the dismissal of the lawsuit is a concrete step.
Yeah, well, I think the problem is that Lewiston has always said that they're willing to sit down and have a meeting, and then they blow it off. That's the bottom line.
That's really what's been going on.
Right, that's consistent. They blew it off before, oh, we got budgets, and then they sued us, and then that's what happened. So I think I don't think that they have been willing to sit at the table and really, with seriousness, address apportionment. And without if I were them, I'd put it off as long as I could too. That's what they're trying to do. Put it off as long as they can.
Why would they want to?
Exactly, why would they? With that said, I think this is what, this is a good solution. This is, for the lawsuit, I think we gotta do this because the lawsuit's costing us a ton.
As much as I'd like to see us be able to time together, I don't think it makes sense to hold it up.
I don't think we
So,
can,
I
it's,
I
you
just
know,
wish it was, it's our opportunity while the iron's
It's,
hot.
yeah.
Andy, the
But
only
it's-
thing is, you asked the first question, how close are we, I think you asked it, how close are we on the other items? And I don't know, Mike Hodgins, if I really understand where we are, maybe I missed some pieces, but I thought we were a little bit closer than the last two meetings that we said. So my concern with just going ahead with this one thing, making the amendment, we haven't addressed the other things. If we have to, are there other changes we have to make to, if we're that close, can we just not do it all in one document? And is there, or are we, because my impression was 2 meetings ago that you were, I don't know if this is executive session kind of thing, but
Yeah,
you were
if
just,
if you're not sure, don't say it.
there are items that are close to being finished, and you just said that earlier. So
Yeah.
is there any,
Are we still
Since-
close at on the other issues? Is that what you mean? Is that a summary of
yeah,
where you're
and
at?
are we jumping the gun just to do something for the sake of doing something if there's something else that's right around the corner? Is this, and it goes back to the delay, because we go through this process, this goes to the drinking water program, this goes to Turner, then it's gonna come back, and then, I don't know what the next step is, but how many more months and then to the next budget cycle we get into, we're in the same position because we haven't thought this, asked this question.
So let me try to answer that as concisely as I can. The discussions that we had were only to amend the agreement for this purpose. It was called an MOU at one point, but this was the only amendment to the agreement that I think we saw necessary. So we would not be doing multiple amendments unless somebody comes up with a new idea, which I haven't heard, meaning from the other side. So the reason to approve this is because it deals strictly with the watershed boundary map. Where are we on the others? I believe we are close because there has been communication from Lewiston to the city of Auburn, also to this board now. And what they appear to be looking for is time for the drinking water program to look at the zoning amendments that Auburn has done. Now those have been delayed. Now I think the drinking water program, we've requested that they review. We didn't ask for approval. I think if that process works out and the drinking water program sees no issues, I think the rest of those amendments should be able to go forward, which would resolve, I think, the rest of the lawsuit in full, because the original concept of what Lewiston thought was being proposed has not played out, meaning back in May of 2022.
Well, now, just a clarification real quick, those ordinances are not being delayed yet. I understand that there's going to be ordinances drawn up, we don't know what they are, they're behind closed doors, and the city manager is going to draw up some stuff. But we haven't
The
seen
process
it.
to
We have not
amend
seen
the ordinance was voted in favor.
it. Right,
So
to
that
go
was-
forward with something, but it didn't automatically
No,
delay
it's,
the...
all that's doing is starting the process.
Right, it
So
didn't actually
then-
delay anything yet,
Did-
now it might, if it's,
I
if
was
you guys...
gonna say what I think is
Yeah.
happening. At the next city council meeting is gonna be the first reading. It's then gonna go to the planning board for their approval, or their review of it, and then after planning board, then it comes back to the city council for the second reading, and both of those are public hearings. And public
So
hearing.
it hasn't
and
been delayed
planning
yet,
board.
though, that's my point.
I believe, is that,
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask our guest, is that the correct,
Well, I might add a little clarity to that. I think you're on the right track. So clearly, it hasn't been delayed. The only thing that's on the table right now is an order, and as Steve said, there's an order to the city manager and attorney to draft in order for the consideration by the council on January 2nd to send this to the planning board for their review and recommendation about adding future applicability dates to the ordinances. Steve's right after that. I think the first and second reading and the public hearing at the council would be after we get the recommendations
I
back.
wasn't sure how we
So
had
I
it.
think this will take some time. I would also say that I don't think and Steve can offer his thoughts on this too. I have not heard anything from anyone that the concern is about the septic ordinance piece of this. The concerns, I think, are around some agriculture issues, and they're around the implementation of the inspection program. But this stuff is all joined together. There were 11 items in the ordinance that was passed, so they're all going along their own path. And we're going to have to see what happens on the 2nd, whether or not the council wants to send this to the planning board for review or not.
My wet wish is it's not delayed, Mike. So nothing has been delayed as far as implementation of the ordinance. It's just there's some work going forward that might do something like that.
Okay,
Good?
yes, yes, so it's not delayed. Even the thought of delaying it is out there, which, again, that's a different topic than what we're on. And I'll save my opinions for that when we're on that topic. So, right now, we have a motion on the table. I'm gonna call the vote. Unless anybody has anything else that they wanna add.
Just that, besides lawyer costs, I mean, what's the big hurry? We have no watershed boundary adjustments in the forecast for anyone. I just think we're giving up our hand, so I'm definitely a no vote, so you guys do what you want to do, that's why we're here.
Well, I don't think the legal costs are an insignificant
Well,
factor.
I think that's what's pushing us to do this. It's very, very expensive. Every
Yes.
month, we're paying $7,000 to $10,000 in legal.
It's,
And Lewiston, you know, they're gonna see our hands all go up, they're just gonna send something else our way, you know. We'll all be in favor to save money, so.
I mean, even if you have a meeting scheduled,
right.
doesn't mean it's gonna be productive.
No.
I mean, it's not gonna force their hand on anything.
Right. Dan, I respect where you're coming from, and I think it's a legitimate point. I'm not gonna say 0% probability that I think that they're gonna negotiate in any sort of seriousness, but I think our responsibility is to the ratepayers of the water district, and I think that it's in our best interest that that we do this. I don't think it's not this whole thing has been a lose-lose. I don't think it's achieved, I'll just leave it at that.
It doesn't require a unanimous decision.
It does not,
So.
no, and I respect everybody's opinion and everybody's vote, and it's not, so does anybody else have anything they'd like to say before we vote? Yay or nay?
Yeah.
I have the same concern, but I think we have to find a way to have that discussion separately. I think you're right, but honestly, we need to decide that, though. I think we need to draw that boundary, so to speak.
So
As it is right now, the lawsuit is taking up a lot of our time.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, all right. All in favor of the motion on the table? All opposed?
Just one.
Two. Anybody, so that's 5-2. Thank you, gentlemen. All right. Mike, do we need you for anything else? You look good up on that screen, though.
What's that?
You look good up on the screen, though.
Why, thanks. Sorry I didn't dress up for it. I thought I was only going to be on the phone. But unless Mike Broadbent needs me to hang on for anything, I think I'm probably done.
No, I don't have anything else for you, Mike. I appreciate everything you're doing. And, yes, thank you.
Mike,
Okay.
Thank you for
Thanks,
everything.
Appreciate it. Have a good Christmas, all who celebrate it.
Thank you.
Happy
Thank you, Mike.
holidays.
You as well.
You as well.
See ya.
All right.
One thing I want to, real quick, before we get off that subject, ask you a question. I know you have a lengthy answer, but here's what I was thinking. One of the things that's costing us a fortune is Mike Carey and Mike Hodgson, the pen pals that are on the phone all the time, and guess what? We get the bill. Carey gets an idea, he gets on the phone, and before you know it, we're billed for 2 hours. Is there some way that we can tell Lewiston going forward that, okay, you have anything you want to talk about, forward it to either you or somebody in this office, and then you can decide if there's something needs to have
Good idea.
Hudson involved.
I don't,
I
yeah,
don't wanna put any more, my concern
I
with
know.
that would be that he's got a lot on his plate.
I
Right
know.
now, he's jumping out of his skin trying to get the
I'm just
UV
thinking, if
plan.
somebody could be a gatekeeper, is this something that's legal that needs to have you two guys talk, it costs us $1,000, or do we?
yeah, that's a good question. I'm not a lawyer, never pretended to be one, but as I understand it, once you enter into something like this, they're only allowed to contact each other. It would be inappropriate for Mike Hodgins to bypass Mike Carey at this point and go right to Heather Hunter. I believe that's a legal code of some
Well, I'm not talking
sort.
about Kerry talking.
that they follow.
Well, I guess you're right, yeah. All right.
Yeah, I can ask
I'm
Mike
just trying to
Hodgins
figure
that,
some way
but
where-
you're right. I see it all the time, like, oh, I got this from Mike, oh, I got this from Mike, and it's 3-4 times a day that I'm getting from Mike Hodgins that he's hearing from Mike Carey, and all I hear is the little cha-ching,
It's
cha-ching,
unbelievable.
you know.
It's unbelievable. It's,
Well,
we know where.
We gotta get this thing done.
We gotta get it done,
Get it done and.
you know.
Guy's
and I-
gonna retire on
on
this.
to other.
Yeah,
Think it's
Over
in.
there.
yeah, that's what I mean. That might.
Well, they're gonna get sick of spending money too.
Okay, so, let me get back to our agenda here.
Cost of portion.
Cost of portion.
Oh, we got one.
Staffing update.
Oh, yeah, staffing.
One quick thing, I was all excited when I put this agenda together that I was gonna tell you tonight that we're at full staff. We did have a new customer service manager start today. His name is Eddie Williams. He comes to us with 14 years of financial experience working for banks. He's been with Norway Savings Bank for quite a while. He worked right here in Auburn. He's got a lot of energy, got a lot of experience. He's really gonna be a big asset for us. Had a great first day today. He's already like showing me how to do things. Like, wow. I think we really got a good one, and it's really just going to add to our team here. Unfortunately, I had 2 people give their notice in the last week, one water operator and one sewer operator, and I'm trying to work through some others that may be looking at other opportunities. It's a challenging job market out there right now. You can find a job anywhere you want, really. And there's a lot of people out there offering a lot with all the, it looks like the economy's on a swing and there's gonna be more construction and lots of jobs and people are desperate to pick up help and they're taking our people away from us. So we are losing 2 valued members of our team, unfortunately, and I'm advertising right now for a water operator and a sewer operator. So anyways, that's kind of the staffing update. We, 1 step forward, 2 steps back, but it's been a really challenging year for that type of stuff.
And pay, wages, pay is an issue with these people.
Well, that's it. They're leaving to take jobs for more money, and it's.
But what
You
does
know-
that mean? Does that mean that our pay scales are too low, or they just found a job that was better? Because I always get nervous when I hear this discussion, because, yeah, there's always gonna be jobs that are better paid.
There are.
We can't say, oh, we're gonna elevate 40% because we're gonna lose this guy, or
So
whatever.
one of them is a sewer operator here. He's been here for just shy of 6 months. He's leaving here. He's gonna go work for another utility and be a sewer operator, and he's getting several more dollars an hour than what we're paying him here as a starting operator.
So somebody's grabbed it.
Somebody's grabbed him. There was an open position that's been sitting open for 2 years, and they couldn't fill it, so they've jacked up what they're paying. We've made an exception. We're hiring people here who don't have experience, and we train them and we get them up to speed, and then unfortunately it makes them right to jump over and go somewhere else. So that is something we're going to have to figure out. The other water operator that we're losing, he lives about 30 minutes away. He's leaving the industry, so to speak, but there's a sawmill 2 miles from the end of his driveway, and he's going to go work there for a couple bucks more an hour, and he's not going to have to drive 30 minutes one way every day.
So we couldn't stop him anyway.
And there's a lot of movement everywhere.
Everywhere.
Right now.
So, again, that's the staffing update. I know in the meeting memo, if you see there, I know we talked last month, we did take the vote on the 2% cost of living increase. The sewer board did vote on a 3.2 last night, so I did hear you guys talking about something. We've got a joint meeting coming up at 5:15. We do have to figure that out. I did put in the memo the full history of what the districts have done as far as what the CPIU recommendation was, what we implemented, and then I also put the history of what our health insurance and other incentive type things have done over the last few years. I'm in an email group with several other superintendents of area districts and municipalities, And one of the questions that one of them raised, hey, what are you all doing for this? So I had submitted my information in exchange. I saw what everybody else was doing. So I put their information in there as well.
And on that information, all of the utilities you contacted, York and Bangor are doing the 3.2, and all of the rest of them are doing 4, 5, 6%.
Yeah.
Well, but we added a 5%.
Pardon?
3 years ago, we added a 5% retention bonus that was paid quarterly for people that stayed on board on top of COLA.
Right, in 2022, we did a 5.9% COLA, and then we did a 5.9% retention bonus on top of the COLA.
Right.
And then in 2023, we implemented an 8.7% adjustment to our pay plan, or 9.5% wage increase to update our pay plan, although we didn't do a COLA. And I think unfortunately, when we did that, the study was done in 2022, so we matched industry wages with a 9.5, but going into 2023, everybody raised their wages that. So,
Right.
I mean, it's unrealistic that we would have done a 17
But on the
in 1 year, but
8.7, we also did the retention bonus
we
on
did,
top of that.
to kind of
Another
counteract that,
5%,
right.
So the person that left, had been here for 6 months, did not get that retention bonus.
Well, and one of the things I was going to
That's,
bring up was...
so the
when-
people that
yeah.
stayed got the retention bonus.
Now, when I brought this up, and actually it was the one that started this 3 years ago and Sid, I said this was supposed to be a retention bonus fund to be used to save employees. He decided to just give it to everybody. And what I thought it should be used for is when you have a situation like he wants $2 more an hour. Well, we have a fund that you can pay him $2 an hour because you feel you want to keep him, and not have to come to us or up your budget because it's already been factored into the budget.
Exactly, that's not-
Unfortunately, the complicated part of that is if I give this one $2 an hour to stay, guess what? Even if you tell him, I don't want you to tell anybody, within 5 seconds of him walking out my door, I've got 10 people walking up, where's my $2 an hour?
Yeah.
And then if you add that all up,
It's
that's
not
greater
realistic.
than what we set aside.
Right.
And we had also, I know it was talked about, and we had said, well, how about just for CDL drivers? Unfortunately, we have a lot of people here that do a myriad of work, from people who drive dump trucks to people who operate sensitive water treatment equipment to people who work on mapping and GIS, and they're not all one size fits all. So that's why Sid did the divided into one, into individuals.
But irregardless, we had that 5.9% increase on top of COLA.
Right,
And on top of the salary study in 2023, so we've really done our part to
and that was effective.
try to keep up.
It was effective and we kept our people.
Right,
And the problem is that the problem isn't over.
yes, I agree.
And I don't think we're in a position where, if we send the word out to the people, to our employees, that we're not gonna, that we're done, and that we're gonna be deaf to the problems the things that are going on in the marketplace, it's gonna make people more willing to leave. That's my feeling on it, and I think that's why I voted yesterday in favor of the 3.2. And
But my concern is, it seems like you're ignoring this 9.5% wage adjustment. Like, you put 0, obviously, we don't have the net percentage increase from last year, like 23. We're talking about 24 now, I understand that, but for 23, it wasn't effectively, everybody got the 9.5, the wage adjustment from the study, right?
Mhm, yes,
And the retention bonus.
yes.
Okay, so that's more than, I mean, it's 9.5%, let's just leave it at that.
Right.
And then, so this year, our total, we're saying no automatic COLA, but we're still giving, what's the number work out to?
Well, 2024, we're talking about 3.2.
Right now, we're debating between 3.2 and 2 for
Plus
2024.
retention, plus,
Well, it's an incentive
plus the
bonus.
shift from retention, or,
Right, and I will tell you, I did some preliminary numbers on the incentive bonus. I just looked at where people are at without sitting down and interviewing them and going through this. This incentive bonus is not 100% payout. It's gonna be more along the lines of 40 to 50%, based off from people who are motivated to meet those incentives. It's not just we're giving them all
That's this
$2,000.
year. And
That's
past
for
years,
2024.
Yeah.
And the reason I separated them, Jason, is because the wage study that was done in 2022, and it was completed in October.
right.
And that person who did that study work did not know what those municipalities were going to do going into 2023 with the pending COLAs that they were implementing. So by taking that vote and moving the wage scale up 9.5%, we caught up to everybody in 2022. We made it effective January 1 of 2023. Unfortunately, everybody around us also jumped up, 8.7%. And so, did we really catch up with them, or
Where do
did
you
we
see
just?
that eight, we're just, 8.7, what's that one?
That's the CPIU, that was the
Well,
social
that's not what they
security.
did, that's just the.
Consumer price.
That's the
Right.
consumer, but
So
generally.
the wage adjustment is the list of what they did, and the top is 6.2% out of all the ones listed.
Well, I
So
guess,
so this is for 2024. We don't know what they did in 2023, but we did 10% in 2023. That's my only,
I understand that.
that's
No,
like, so
yep.
yes, it was based on the prior year, but it took effect the start of 2023.
Right.
So in the year of 2023, we jumped 10%, and none of these others came close to that. So
Well,
we're
I
talking
don't-
about 2 plus an incentive bonus, which I still think is fair. I still think a fair starting point.
Right.
I-
Well, I wouldn't say that
Discuss it.
none of the other ones didn't come close to it, because I don't have their information
Right.
on here.
And we
for
don't
what
know if they
that
did
year.
retention bonuses.
Or if those other systems just raised their wage 8.9, if they did that or not, I don't know that. But, again, I'm just trying to give you the information, because the last meeting, there was a lot of questions, well, we did this, or what did we do? This is what we've done. I just wanted you to have that.
yeah, no, appreciate it, and I don't want to say respectfully, I just wish that we could replace it more with that retention bonus and find a system that we can pay what we need to pay, and not have an automatic COLA that, because you were here breathing air, you get this raise. It'd be nice to have it all into that program you got this year coming up. It says, this is your minimum for being here, but here's what you can earn if you just use some initiative, and a combination of the both should help us. And I'd even increase that amount if it was going towards more performance-based as much as anything else. So
Do they seem to be staying within the industry? these people are? Or is it just like, this is miserable work, I'm gonna go somewhere else and I'm gonna make more money and not have to work as hard?
You're asking people that could be doing that themselves, they could be looking around the field.
I mean, generally, people tend to stay in the same, like, the majority of our workers here, it's construction. And you see them, if they leave here, it's either going to another water sewer entity, or they're going to a public works / construction outfit that, you look at some of these contractors, they don't have enough help. There's gonna be a ton of construction in Lewiston and Auburn next year, a ton.
But
Every
they
street
know
is gonna
that
be
they
dug
don't
up.
have to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and throw their work gear on and head out and go take care of a broken pipe.
Right, but, definitely the work we do is unique and challenging. We've been the last couple of days this week, we've had crews working all night, every night for the last 3 nights. Running generators and working in the rain and
And making over.
falling trees and overtime and.
Yeah, so
but
I mean,
they're-
it's not, you're making good money, you're making overtime. I think the other issue is this is kind of a quasi-municipality. So that's cost of living increases is part of municipalities, as you know.
Yeah,
And the
unfortunately,
city does
that-
the same thing.
Yeah.
I understand where people are coming from, but I mean, if the standard is what the CPI is, whatever, that's what social security is,
I guess my
right? That's
point
what
was-
social security goes up.
But if I'm, a younger worker, I'm looking for more than cost of living increase. I'm looking, I wanna,
And that's where the performance thing comes in, where you can get ahead. I'm just thinking, if we're doing the salary study, we spent a lot of money in these salary studies. Bring people up 8.7% one year, right? So they're at where we should be, plus the 5% we kick in, those two alone.
Yeah, but you can't just look at that that was what we did. You gotta look at the 5 years before that is
We
what,
didn't have the 5%
when
pension bonus.
people didn't do it. We weren't doing anything really in the first, the 5 years before that. That's why we had to do the salary thing, is everyone just kind
Well,
of.
we did the salary thing 6 years ago.
Yeah, it's in here.
We've been doing it every year, it's pretty regular, they've been doing
But,
salaries.
I mean,
If I may.
Yes.
Coming from Portland, I've been here for 7 months. I can tell you that we did an 8.5% that year. So it depended on when you did your wage study. When she fielded all these other utilities, that may not have been reflected in that wage study that she did. And also, Kevin, to your question, we do know, and we can only speak of what we do know through our experience, is that one of the 2 operators is going to another utility.
okay.
So it's similar work. So similar, you get a phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning, you gotta pick that up.
And we're always gonna
It's
have
already
that
full
problem,
of
because we
generators.
can do the same thing. You're
Right.
looking for the operator, why don't we go
Right.
you know, send a circular around
And
saying,
and
we're
we
willing to
got
pay
one for
this.
Portland, so
Yeah,
take
right.
that.
That's what, he's
We're
here
always
because-
vulnerable to that, no matter what we do, we can raise all
And,
this out.
and the gentleman that's going to the other industry it's a lifestyle choice as well, and,
Right,
you
not
know,
having to
and
commute.
Matt makes decisions for different reasons,
Right.
and money is a factor, money is not the only thing, but at the same point, we have to be competitive, and I don't think to me, it's not enough money to send a message to the staff that, hey, we're gonna, because I look at I'm like, really, 1%? You're gonna stiff me 1%?
Well, see, that's the attitude I'd like to change, because
Well,
we're
good.
giving 5% on a retention
Well,
bonus.
run
that's
for
not
president then. I mean, because you're not gonna change
No,
it as a
just saying that.
board treasurer on the Auburn Water District Board of Trustees, you're not changing that. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I mean, that's,
I think that, you know, his plan this year would be great, especially if it shows performance.
I agree with
I'd
that.
pay more,
I am
I'd
all
double
for
that
incentive.
5% to 10% if it was performance.
It's just a point of order, I know we're wrapping up a
Yeah.
staffing update.
That's what-
Continue the budget discussion.
Yep.
all right, thank you, we're on to the budget.
All right,
No,
So-
we got the cost question on it.
we got one last budget bullet
Yeah,
item.
then we're gonna vote on the 3.2 in the budget.
Right, we have another meeting with the combined boards and
Right, but
We skipped
do we want,
Cost
Mike, do you
apportionment.
want,
Yeah,
we
it's
gotta
just a
go to
quick
cost
discussion.
cost apportionment, because yes, so we
Yeah.
don't lose that. So, do you wanna vote on that
Well,
before we go?
I guess, you know, Andy, you had told me that if we didn't agree with the sewer board, it would just revert to the past practice. So are we gonna run into this joint meeting, just assuming that, well, they voted on the 3-2 and we voted on the 2? And I prepared your budgets tonight, and I have the difference between a 2 and a 3. That way, if we stuck on the 2, I'd say this is your number.
Okay.
If you go with the 3, this is your number.
Let's do this.
Yep.
At the beginning of the budget talks, let's do this, and let's do a vote on how we as trustees are gonna go into the next meeting on the 3.2 or the 2.0, and let's move on to water apportionment, so we got 15 minutes to do that, and we can do, we know what the budgets are.
We'll be done in 3 minutes.
Yeah,
We got a plan.
okay, let's, I wanna,
So cost apportionment, I know this has been a subject since 2020. I know, Dan, you've done a ton of work on this. There's been a ton of discussions at this board. You know, we did set up a subcommittee. It was Andy and Sid. I believe you guys went to 2 meetings. Like I said in the previous discussion, it was brought back to this, a suggestion of this, looking at our auditor. The same auditor that we use here at the Auburn Water and Sewer District is the same auditor the city of Lewiston uses. And it would make a lot of sense to have the auditor just do a breakdown of expenses. What do they pay? What do we pay? And then pull these together, and then we'd have the audited as expenses. So,
Right.
you know, there's a lot of numbers that always get thrown out. It's 10 grand a month, it's 100 grand a month. Well, what is this? Coming from the auditor, it's gonna be cut and dry. This is what it is. This is what we're paying, that's what they're paying, and I can give you all the flow information we ever wanna look at. This is the apportionment for flow, this is what we're paying. It makes a lot of sense to do that. I think, and I've heard this from Mike Hodgins, that we are clear to reopen discussions with Lewis, and they never really stopped, we just kind of stopped meeting. And I know there was a budget crunch, they just asked to delay that, and then, like you said, we got into the lawsuit, and that communication just broke down, and it stopped happening. I would like to see if the board supports this. I met with Dan, we feel like that this is a good approach to take, to get that committee back going, meet with Lewiston again, and bring that up. And just stay after it. Don't let it just kind of die. Don't let it because they're talking about budgets. No, make the time for this. If we have to, you know, push, we do have
agree.
leverage in our PUC.
and I can say, in looking back, the timeline, I've read a few of these from the ways back, and I remember now like, we did not have a unified front here at all levels to address this.
we actually didn't at the time.
We did not. We had people here that were like, we don't want to make any changes, and we just want to keep it 50-50.
No ripples.
No ripples. And now we are, and so,
12% subsidy.
and now, yes, and now I think that is very much different, and so I'm all in favor of it, so.
So to keep it simple, I'd
yes.
like to make a motion to have staff request our auditors, R.H. Smith, determine the value cost apportionment to the district.
Well, what Lewiston actually wanted to do was identify the accounts that are shared, and then all those accounts that are quid pro quo, you know, we have a manager that we pay for, they have a manager they pay for. So all those different things that are kind of a cooperative effort. And then once we identify them, Lewiston can look at their chart of accounts to see what the numbers are, and we look at ours. That was what Heather Hunter had agreed to. But then, again, we went to lawsuit, we couldn't take the next step. But that's what we need to do first, identify those accounts, because she said, I'm not sure which ones they are, and
Well, that's what the auditors do,
So that was,
right?
Now that we're
That's
asking
what the motion
auditors-
is.
That's what we're asking the
Right.
auditors to do.
Right.
So that Heather can't say, wow, I don't, it's the
Right.
auditors are gonna do it.
right.
So we need a second, so we can.
I'll
cover
second
that.
Second.
Okay, that's good, that was a quick second. All right, let's discuss. Are we also gonna name who the committee is? Who are the people that are gonna do that? Do we wanna?
Well, the motion was to request information from the auditors.
Yeah, next step, that's it, next step.
That's
Keep
all
it
we're
simple.
doing? Okay.
Next step, once we get that.
Anybody have any discussion on that?
My only thing I'd add to that is the only value of renewing the discussions is if we request as the auditor, we're paying 100% of this.
Well,
Do we,
of course
if
it was supposed to-
if we renew the discussion, and we make the
Yes.
request of the auditor, they at least pay half.
Yes.
Well, they were gonna pay
That's
for
my
their
only
half.
point.
They were gonna have the auditor look at their books, and our auditor was looking at our books, and we were gonna compare.
But I'm only
They-
authorized to ask RHR Smith to look at our books.
Right, and then we can.
Is this,
send a
you've
message
developed a great relationship with Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin and I
Why
talk
don't you,
regularly.
you wanna reach out to Kevin and say, this is what my board would like to do, and you guys have expressed this, and see if you can get his buy-in on this?
If they'll do the same, then that's
That's what I mean.
fair. You
Then
know,
we'll
I
go
just don't want
forward.
us to bear 100% of all these costs. I just,
So do we wanna
So,
authorize Mike
right,
to reach out to Lewiston to see if they can get agreement to have the auditors?
so I'll
Look at
withdraw
all-
my motion.
Yep,
Do we need Mike to do that? On the cost apportionment?
Well, Mike, just to
Well-
reach out and say, listen, this is what we wanna do, are you guys willing to do it?
Oh,
on
I'm
your
sorry,
side?
this Mike.
Right,
yeah.
yeah.
no, not that Mike, no.
Really?
No, not on the screen, Mike,
Okay,
no,
thank
Mike,
you.
So, no.
salaried Mike.
Yeah, what Mike would do is just reach out to Lewis and say, would you be willing to have your auditor look at these accounts? We'll do the same, but I wouldn't want us to do it until they agree that they were willing to.
Yeah.
And then we do that, and maybe you can say, we need, how much time do you need? And tell them 30 days, 60 days, whatever, and then we set a date when that audit will be done. Then we'll actually both agree on what charts of accounts are included in this, and then probably come up with a dollar amount too, but maybe not. That's not necessary at this point. So if you want to make a friendly, I'll make a friendly motion, a friendly amendment to your motion that we authorize Mike on top of this to contact Lewiston and get the ball rolling on getting their auditor working on the
Okay.
chart of accounts. And we would only do ours until they agreed to get their auditor to do their side.
Yeah.
So we
I'm
need-
fine with that, and this person has seconded it, you okay with that?
Yeah.
So you can second my friendly amendment?
Well, all right, let's
We have to
let's
vote on the
clean
amendment.
that up, let's clean up the motion a little bit. So is it a motion with an amendment, or is it are we gonna,
We want to resubmit.
we
the
wanna
motion.
withdraw the, and
Why
then,
why don't I withdraw the motion? Andy seems to have a good grasp on the new motion, so I'll withdraw my motion.
so let me just make sure I'm clear what we're doing is we're authorizing Mike to reach out to Lewiston to get their buy-in, to have our auditors audit all the accounts, get an assessment, get a totals, to audit the accounts that are shared between between the city of Lewiston and the Auburn Water District.
Correct.
Is that
I
correct?
mean, I'll make the motion, but that's essentially what we're trying to do.
That's what we're trying to do. So that's the motion. Is that
So I
a
would-
clean motion?
Well,
Is that?
I'll make a motion that we authorize Mike to speak to Lewiston and ask them if get their auditor team to go through their charts of accounts to find all the shared expenses. And if they say they will do it, then we will also do our side. They pay for their side, we pay for our side.
It'll take forever for them to do that.
I was just
Well,
gonna add.
I was gonna
what
say
if they-
that there
what
ought
if
to be
they
a
say
date,
they're not gonna do it?
some sort of a deadline.
Well, then we'll know that they aren't serious about negotiating cost
And
support.
ask for a deadline, a date, and what would be reasonable,
I think that, yeah, no.
and then come back to the board with what. the
Go ahead,
answer is.
Kevin. All right, well, hold on. Let's get the motion.
I just don't see where they're, I can see them just saying, yeah, we'll do it.
Well, it's the only way we can.
Whatever.
Well, was there a suggestion? If
Well-
they take my call and they say that they'll do it, the really only holdup would be the work of the auditor.
Well, let's get the
Not-
motion
Can we put a date
out.
on
Let's
it?
get the motion in the second, then let's have discussion.
So that's my motion, is that we authorize Mike to do as I mentioned.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Now we're gonna have a
And it was
discussion.
their idea, because we were willing to move forward with our charts and all the paperwork that we already had, but Heather said, well, I'd like to have an audit of what accounts qualify under this. Okay, then that was gonna be the next step back 2 years ago.
I'd like to see a deadline,
Well, that's what we would ask for,
Within
yeah.
Yeah.
30 days.
We should, the conversation would be, hey, you know,
You come
Kevin,
back with a deadline date.
we've,
Yeah.
Yeah, what,
we're
so what is realistic?
we're cooperating
reasonable?
on the lawsuits coming down piece by piece. We've developed this, we're talking about all the issues around the lake. Part of that ongoing issue has been apportionment. You guys have agreed. The attorneys have told us that you guys want to continue on this discussion. This was suggested by Heather. This is what we'd like to do. Let's get our audit. Let's audit the accounts so we know what we're dealing with. You might end up being right that it's, just keep it 50-50.
We're just gonna keep asking, because
Right.
it's not gonna get
Let
done.
them-
Evidently, they're blaming
and
us
then-
for not contacting
Ask,
them,
how
so-
long will it take for you to get an audit of all the, because we're the same auditor. So we're asking someone to do the audit. We're not asking them to do the
All
audit.
right, well, okay, that's.
We're not asking them to do the audit, we're asking them to authorize the auditor to do the audit.
Got it,
Right.
got it, okay, that's much better.
Yeah.
And
Right,
this was their suggestion.
yes.
I'll call a question in the spirit of timing.
Okay. All in favor? All opposed?
Okay.
Okay.
You could have a
Passes
meeting.
unanimously.
All right.
Nice.
All right, last thing to throw out there, you know, again, final budget review. I did, since the last meeting, the only thing that I changed in this budget, because it was the only thing that we raised question of, is on page 1, under payroll. You know, this number represents the $1,091,000 represents a 3.2% COLA. If we stay with the 2% COLA, it would be $1,077,000. So if we stay with the 2% and we get into our vote after public hearing tonight, we would just, I have the difference between those two numbers, and that's what we vote on. You vote on the
Yeah.
FY 2022 budget.
So
of
I
X.
wanna, so we know what we're dealing with when we go into the group meeting. Let's talk as the trustees, let's have a vote. And what's the first budget, the 3.2?
Yep.
I'm gonna propose that we vote on the 3.2 cost of living increase. Okay, that's what I'm gonna propose, and if we decide that that's what we're gonna vote on. I think that's legal, we can just vote on that that's what we wanna do, I believe. I don't need a motion to do that?
We have to make a motion that we change the
No.
last motion,
Okay, I make a motion that this board accepts the 3.2 cost of living increase.
I'll second that.
Okay. Discussion.
No, I just wanted to let you know, it's only like, it's not even $20,000, it's not a huge difference.
13, yeah.
It was not money necessarily as it was, we gotta get away from automatic whatever.
Yeah.
Especially when we already put the 5% out there as a retention bonus, and we do all our studies, and we do these automatic things, and there's no purpose. So it was really more a point
Yes.
than the 1%.
Understood.
And I understand your point that employees are gonna quit because they see 2% instead of 3.2%. But I think that's ridiculous too.
Might not be the deciding factor, but it's. So, I'm gonna call the question. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, 2 opposed, so it passes, it's 3.2. All right, so are we good on the budget discussion for the meeting now? I think we're all set.
I think we're all in alignment.
We're gonna go, water quality update, do we have any issues? I do have something for the trustee open session.
It was pretty good, up until this storm this
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
This has thrown another wrench into the monkey, so to speak. The water quality took a turn with this storm.
Yeah.
It's coming out of it, but, it's a lot of nutrients washing in, the ground was frozen.
Flew over
a lot of
yesterday,
washing.
some tributaries, brown is just coming right out.
Oh,
So
A lot of
it's
nutrients.
gonna be interesting water quality testing.
What was the highlighted portion here? Because we made these reports smaller, and my eyes aren't getting any better.
I think that was just,
Somehow everything reduced to,
that wasn't intentional,
I
I
got,
believe.
so we're gonna,
Okay.
There's nothing we can do about that at this point, you guys are on it. Trustee open session,
Just when's the next ad hoc committee? Do we need to appoint new members to that?
Good point. I am looking to set up another ad hoc committee. It's just with as busy as Ben, I haven't. I would like to have one in
Put that on.
January.
put that on the agenda for next meeting.
All right, yep.
Can you do that? Okay. Anybody else have something to say?
Yes, I talked to Mike about our last meeting, we talked about the superintendent review. I was away for a couple weeks, so I didn't get to reach out to everyone. He suggested I include the sewer board in reaching out to get the revised matrix that we talked about
Okay.
for superintendent review, so I'd like to put that as our, I think we handle that in executive session first as a discussion, so that should be in our next meeting, unless anybody objects.
Sounds good.
So I'll do that homework and reach out to people. Hopefully, everybody will respond. So,
Thank you.
And I've got, so it's my last meeting as president, so I just wanted to say,
We would've brought a cake.
it's all right. But I,
There you go.
Take
Take two.
But-
Steve, you've done a wonderful job.
well, thank you. I
Your
wanted,
efforts.
yeah, I just want to say what a pleasure and an honor it's been to work with you guys. You guys are awesome. And Mike, I think you're fantastic, and I think you guys are, Matt, you've been a huge addition. And I just wanted to thank you all.
Thank
Because
you.
It's been an
Thank you.
honor and a
Yeah.
pleasure,
Thank
and
you, Steve.
I've enjoyed it. And I've learned a lot. And I've learned a lot even from you, Dan. Force feed. You force fed me a lot of info here. But no, I just want to say thank you. It's been a real pleasure. And so.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for
Appreciate
that.
it.
Likewise, right
He's
back to
still
you.
on, he's still on sewer though, so we'll see him the
You'll
day
still see me
before.
on sewer.
If you wanna come sit, public open session for sewer.
Always love to crap.
All right, so with that, motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Hey.
Aye.
Aye.
I was a CSO.